Welcome back. Let's get back into this nice long lesson on the organization of the executive branch, which I so kindly broke into two parts for you. You are welcome. Last time we got together, we looked at the executive office of the president, White House staff, vice presidency, independent agencies, and government corporations like the post office. Now we're going to get into the cabinet. These are the most important, most public members of the president's staff. These people are in charge of the executive departments, okay, the big important areas of government. They are advisors to the president, so the president still kind of has overall authority in all of these issues, but frequently will allow these individuals quite a bit of freedom in how they run their agencies. This is the presidential cabinet. They're nominated by the president, but these people are so important that we have a procedure in place where the Senate, the U.S. Senate, has to confirm these appointments. So you can't just put anybody in your cabinet. There are presidents who have tried, but the Senate has to approve. They have to agree that this is a good person to do that job. They most often agree because most often presidents make good choices. We have Department of State. Department of State is one of our most important ones, most of our well-known ones. State Department carries out our foreign policy. Anytime we have interactions with another nation, be they peaceful, be they less than peaceful, or just based upon trade, our State Department is going to be involved in it in some way. State Department supervises ambassadors, supervises diplomats, and generally makes sure that we get along with the rest of the world and encourage the rest of the world to do those things that we would like them to do. That's our Department of State. Department of the Treasury, you probably guessed it right, they deal with money. Treasury Department collects federal taxes as well as printing money. Yeah, we just print it whenever we want it. Kind of, that's sort of true. We also print postage stamps because they are in their own sort of way money, and we mint coins. So all that stuff is done by the Treasury Department. Treasury Department also has some input and advice on other aspects of macroeconomics and how we run our economy, and will advise the president on those issues. Defense. More than just a barrier between you and your neighbors. Wait, no, that would be a fence, not defense. Okay, defense. The Defense Department maintains our military, that is the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, and the Marine Corps, which is kind of in its way a part of the Navy, but doesn't like to consider themselves a part of the Navy, so we'll go ahead and do them that favor and separate them out here. It also conducts weapons research and builds military bases. So the DoD, the Department of Defense, bombs, bases, and the military. Yeah, that's what the DoD does. Okay, let's keep on going. We've got the DOJ, the Department of Justice. The Justice Department is responsible for investigating and for prosecuting violations of federal laws. So if you break a federal law, most of the laws that affect your life on a daily basis are state laws, not federal laws. But if you break one of these, it's going to be the Justice Department, the FBI, that is going to be coming after you. They also supervise the national prison system, and it represents the federal government in lawsuits. So if you want to sue the United States government, which you can do, you can sue them. It's going to be the Department of Justice that represents the federal government and their interests in that lawsuit. The DOE, nobody calls it the DOE. I don't know why we have the DOD and the DOJ, but nobody calls the Department of Education the DOE. The Department of Education, I'm going to start a trend right now. The DOE provides, I don't like that. The Department of Education, yeah. The Department of Education provides assistance to states with all levels of education. It also conducts research on the effectiveness of education, and recently has created a number of incentive programs for states to try to get states to provide better education to their students. A lot of their work has been kind of controversial, but they are trying to make sure that we are all getting a better, more effective education. That is our Department of Education, not our DOE. Okay, our DOT. I'm going to stop doing this now. Our Department of Transportation. The Department of Transportation enforces transportation safety standards, trying to make sure that our roads and highways and bridges and railroads and ports and all of these things are as safe as we can possibly make them. It also assists state and local governments with the maintenance of these things because sometimes the states simply can't do it. You might have an important highway that goes through a state but never really benefits that state in some way. The Department of Transportation is going to get into that state and try to help them out with those highways, make sure that they're well maintained without bankrupting a state that doesn't really benefit from it too much. Department of Energy. Department of Energy promotes energy and fuel conservation, among other things. It also conducts research into sources of energy and tries to determine whether or not our best national interests is to dig up more coal, which we've got lots of and it's really cheap, but as dirty as can be, or try to work on alternative energy approaches like wind and solar, which is much more expensive at this point, even though it's becoming cheaper, but of course is clean and therefore probably less expensive in the long run. That's what the Department of Energy does. All right, Homeland Security. They are responsible for securing the homeland. They basically run the agencies that defend us against acts of terrorism. So anytime there's a terrorist threat, the Department of Homeland Security is going to make sure that the National Security Agency, the Central Intelligence Agency, and the Federal Bureau of Investigations, or the NSA, CIA, and FBI, love all those letters, are going to be working together and sharing information in an effective way so that we don't have another 9/11 style terrorist attack where we had all the right information in the right hands, but they weren't talking with each other, so we didn't actually know what was going on. It also runs FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency. They deal mostly with natural disasters. You get a big hurricane that hits an area or a big earthquake, and FEMA is going to come in and help clean it up and help take care of the people who are there. Other departments, we've got a lot of other departments. They include Interior, Commerce, Labor, Health and Human Resources, Housing and Urban Development, and Veterans Affairs. I could sit down and go through all this information on all of these different areas. And if you squint your eyes really carefully, you might even be able to see some of them down there. But I'm not going to do it because this has already been a pretty long lesson. And I think you get the idea. And if you want to find out more about the Secretary of the Interior, who really kind of looks at our natural resources at home, I encourage you to do so. But I'm not going to do it for you. All right. Well, thank you very much for joining me today. This has been another swell lesson. And I will see you later. Thank you very much for joining me, and farewell.